I watched as well as state recognition became the object of desire. And I thought, well, which state, and do we want that recognition, and what's the cost of recognition? Nobody was asking. Well, many people were asking, but it wasn't in the mainstream. But it was also, I think, a predominantly white movement as well. And even though they were talking equality, as they talked, there was another tradition of the struggle for racial equality that struck me as effaced or as backgrounded, as that became the new equality discourse. So when Angela says, what do we mean when we talk about equality, it seems to me we have to ask who's using it for what purpose, and how does the use maybe mobilize a history or efface a history? What are the alliances that are made through one usage or another usage? And of course, I think if there's going to be marriage, anybody should be able to marry. I have no idea why you can only marry one other person, but okay. I mean, I'm not like against it, and if there's going to be that right, then it should be extended to gay and lesbian people. There's no question about it. But the radical critique of marriage, or even the implication of marriage in property relations, it's almost like we evacuate any analysis of political economy. We evacuate the analysis of the state, and we also evacuate other traditions of the struggle for equality. What does it mean that Black Lives Matter is happening, or was, it still is happening to the side of that equality issue? Like, are they speaking to each other? I think, in fact, not. I don't know if I want to go further with that, but
yeah, and I'm thinking that there's always been this push for assimilation. Why do we have to assume that existing modes, existing standards are the ones to which we have to assent? I mean, yeah, I very ambivalently supported the Marriage Equality Act, and the same. But it seems as if, as you pointed out, there ought to be a way to include a critique at the same time. And the problem is not that people. Oh, it's not loud enough. Okay. Well, I can actually hold it like this if that's better. Move this out of the way. And so yeah, it's not the so much that people assume that existing heteronormative standards of marriage were the only ones. It was the reluctance to engage in a serious critique. Why is it not possible, say, to get married, and at the same time recognize what a excuse me, I'm in the council table.
We're in council chambers.
What kind of an institution it is. Based on property, based on property ownership, property inheritance. I think property is the major problem here.
Yeah.
This is why it is not possible, I think, to engage in any serious conversation about inequality or equality without addressing capitalism.
Yes.
Without addressing capitalism. And of course, there are those who want to address capitalism, but who don't want to talk about racism, or who don't want to talk about misogyny, or who don't want to talk about homophobia, or any of the other issues. And unfortunately, over the last period, both activists and scholars have learned that it is important, that it is possible, not only possible, but important to address these issues together. The term that people use is intersectionality. I don't know whether that's the best way to address it, but it's not necessary to leave racism in order to have a serious conversation about democracy. You know, one of the problems now is that Democrats, I think, are, when I say Democrats, I mean members of a certain political party, right, are assuming that the reason the election was lost had to do with what they called identity politics.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was definitely the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now they're saying, let's forget about identity politics, which means let's forget about all of the issues that really matter when it comes to democracy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And let's just, well, we need to talk about the working class more. And of course we need to talk about the working class. We've always needed to talk about the working class. Mm-hmm. But the assumption is that the working class is white. And the assumption is still that the working class is male. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand how people walk around with these.
They do, though.
You know, I mean, I guess that's why ideology really is one's imagined relationship to reality. Yeah.